Hello and welcome to another episode of Movies That Make Us. I'm Jay.
I'm Tracy.
And that's Val.
All right, folks, it's just show 100 something and
We're
we still don't
back.
know what's happening.
If you're not
Listen,
watching
I
this,
stayed up until 3 a.m. watching Ted Lasso. So
Wow.
I wasn't getting up any earlier than I needed to this morning to eat. So I'm going to eat while we do the show.
That's fine.
that's all right.
I'm almost done
if
with
you're not-
season 2.
Not watching-
What's that, Tracy?
I was just going to say, if you weren't watching at the start of the video, you're going to be, if you're just listening to us, you're going to be a little confused as to what happened.
Sorry, I was eating my
We came on
Cheerios
the air and
and
Val
Nanas.
got caught eating some breakfast.
Yeah, Ted Lasso is definitely one of those shows that's very binge-worthy. It's hard to stop watching one episode after another. So, and now's a great time because I think season 2 is done. So they're not.
Yeah,
doing new
and I think
episodes.
we have like 2 more episodes or something, but I was like, oh my gosh, it's 3 a.m. We need to I need to go to bed or else we could have finished, but we have to do this today and I have some other stuff, but we decided to wait till after the wedding to start watching it just because we didn't have like a ton of time to commit. So now we've got a bunch of shows we got to watch. Squid Game is next.
Yeah,
I
I think
haven't seen
Squid
that one
Game.
yet.
I haven't seen Squid Game. I've seen Ted Lasso. From what I hear, Squid Game's going to be a very different experience.
Yeah, we thought we'd start with the good part of humanity first.
Yeah.
Right.
Before we move to the bad part,
The
which maybe we should have done
future.
that backwards, but we kind of needed it. And I probably screened 12 movies last week. And
Wow.
so it's really nice when Dave's home and I'm home and we can sit and pick the movie that I want to, not that I'm complaining. I am not complaining.
No.
But like when you're a couple and you still have those couple moments and you're like, hey, it's Friday night and we ordered a pizza and we watched The Harder They Fall, which I hadn't seen. So it was a movie we'd both not seen yet. And then after that, we watched as much Ted Lasso that we could get in. So it was nice.
Yep, nice.
I will be writing a review for The Harder They Fall.
I'm excited
sending it
to see
over
that
to you,
one.
Jake, because I was really, really impressed.
Okay.
I mean, you guys know how much like we all cumulatively love Westerns.
Right.
And this Western I really needed that movie last night. Like it was so stylish and the acting was amazing. And the action scenes and it was just really, really
cast
cool.
is incredible.
Yeah. The cast is crazy.
Good night.
cool.
You got
Crazy
Regina
cool.
King and Jonathan Majors and
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's on Netflix, so it's free or Amazon. It's on one of those.
I think it's
on
on
one of the streaming services,
It's on one of them.
except for the monthly, whatever you're paying for it. But
How was the Diana movie? That's
so
what
I
I've heard.
I did send my review of that to Jake. I didn't put any spoilers in it, but I probably will add some spoilers next week and then we can update the review. This is my thing about Diana and I'll be super quick about it so we can get into Val Kilmer because I love him so much.
Nicolas Cage,
I got called Val Kilmer on the air yesterday,
right.
so it's in my
That's
mind.
right.
Nicolas Cage.
Although we do love Val Kilmer.
We do. So this is what I have to say about the Princess Diana movie really quick. If you know more than regular tabloid information about Princess Diana, then I think that you'll really not enjoy is not a good word because it's a very dark kind of Shakespeare-esque like Hamilton and ghosts and like just very it's shot and the music is kind of like a suspense horror film because they're trying to make you feel, at least from my perspective, uncomfortable, like she felt uncomfortable. And it pinpoints a very specific weekend in her life, which is a Christmas weekend that she left Charles. that's when she walked out and said, I can't do this anymore. I know you're cheating on me. But she didn't say any of those things. There's a lot of like they leave a lot of room for you to fill in the blank. So as I'm watching it, because that's when I got to screen here at home, Sammy's on one side of me and Dave's on the other, and I'm having to fill in blanks for them as I'm watching the movie, because I know a lot about Princess Diana and the royals. I've watched every documentary. I've watched every like Crown episode. I've read, just because I could tell you all the way back to the Tudors. Like I know, that's one thing that I really like to know about. I don't have anything royal in my house though. Like I don't have like the king and queen mugs or like Meghan and Harry plates, or that's not the kind of fan I am. I just like to know. And so for me, because I knew why she was acting the way she was acting and who all the people were around her, it made more sense to me. They were very confused. So for me, when you make a movie like that, it's a bit pretentious, and I will say the word. But it did get a standing ovation at a couple of film festivals. It will get nominated for a bunch of things. Kristen Stewart did do a good job, but I think she went to the Emma Watson School of Accents. Her mouth was, as I'm watching her mouth, it was almost everything Emma Watson does with her mouth as she talks. Not that that's bad. I mean, if you're going to learn from anybody, that's fine. But she whispered almost the whole movie. And Diana was soft-spoken, but I don't know that she whispered that much.
Yeah.
So a lot of people love it. My opinion is not a popular opinion. If you like Kristen Stewart, you're probably going to really love it because it is her doing a great job. If you like the royal family, it's going to be a little off the beaten path, but you're going to understand and you'll probably enjoy it. But just know it's dark and odd and artsy. It's an artsy fartsy film.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Good to know. We're going later as soon as we're done here to the Eternals. I'm taking my two.
Oh, nice. I'm excited for you. I want everybody to go see that movie. This is another one like Shang-Chi that it wasn't getting a lot of good press before it came out. And a lot of the critics don't like it. And I don't understand why. There are things that don't work for me, but I absolutely love how inclusive this movie is and how it doesn't feel forced down our throats, that the characters and the cast of the movie, it's such an array of who they represent. But again, you know how some movies kind of feel forced? They're like, oh, we've got to have this element or this kind of person or this background. It just feels so natural. And the cast is so amazing that I really like it. I gave it a B, like a really good B. After you guys watch it, we should do an episode on it so that we can talk about why we think the critics don't like it, but then why we like it and what works and what doesn't work. Because there are a few things that don't work. It's not perfect. It's not my favorite Marvel Cinematic movie, but I love where it's going and I love the balls that they had for this movie.
Nice.
I'm excited, and I'll be honest, just for one reason: Makari, the deaf,
and
like that's awesome.
That part of it, along with so many other parts, is just so natural and so fluid, and it doesn't feel forced to me. Sometimes those things, feel forced because they have to get in a quota of something. And when I saw it, because I didn't know much about it going in, I was so excited for your kids. Yeah. Because when I was younger, I would have loved to have seen, someone that represented me up there. And now that's why it's me and Iron Man. I feel like I am Robert Downey Jr. That's who represents me on the screen.
Iron now.
We found so Megaplex out at Valley Fair. They're doing 3 different showings today that are open caption. They're actually pretty good. They've got a few showings of Dune today that are open caption. I will promote and push this as much as I can. Megaplex is the place for open caption movies, which is fantastic. We had a horrible experience at Cinemark when we went and saw Dune. We got the little device for my son to watch it, and for the first 20 minutes, it didn't work. I had to go out and devices and everything else. And the manager was great. She gave us vouchers to come back, but I'm like, he missed the first 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of exposition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm not doing the machines anymore. We're going to have to find open caption screenings to take take him to. So so I'm
Yeah,
excited.
Megaplex is the bomb because
Yep.
I accidentally saw an open caption movie. I think I told you guys there
Yep.
before I left, and I actually enjoyed it a lot. And I use closed caption. Is that what it's called? Open caption, closed caption
Yeah.
on
Yep.
when I watch it on TV a lot, just because because in radio I might be losing my hearing a little bit. I think that might be a thing, but they don't tell you. But I have these on my head like 5 hours a day.
It's funny because we have them on all the time, obviously, and people will talk about like people who watched Dune at home and said, "Oh, it was really hard. The sound was hard to hear and things." In the theater, it was not. But at
No.
home, I could see that because if you don't have a great sound system, I mean, it was made for the theater experience.
Yeah.
But I thought it wasn't that bad, and then I remember, well, yeah, because when we watched it again at home, it was with the captions on, and so the dialogue doesn't bother me when it's quiet because I can read it anyway. But we're not. We are kicking off November this month. We are talking all about Nick Cage and some Nicolas Cage movies, and we are starting off with quite a movie. I love a good pun. Love a good pun, and this movie title is one of the best in cinema. Face Off. It's just awesome. I mean,
It's face /off because
Yeah.
John Woo did
face
not want
/off.
people thinking this. He didn't want people thinking this was a hockey movie.
Yeah.
So that's why
Okay.
it's not Face Off. Yeah.
Yeah, if you went in thinking it was a hockey movie, you would have been very disappointed because there's no hockey in it whatsoever. Now, if you did go in thinking this was a movie about two arch enemies who swap faces surgically, then you would be pleased because that's exactly what this is.
See,
If
I
you're a
thought
fan
that
of that genre,
when I went to go see Miracle, I thought that they were
you thought
switching
that was going to
faces
be another face swapping
yeah,
movie.
and then it wasn't. I was so disappointed.
No.
So this movie came out or was being made the year that I was at film school at USC.
Uh-huh.
And I think it had just finished being filmed, like right when I got there. And we got to go to a screening of it before the full edit was done. And then we got to do an open panel discussion with the writers,
Nice.
very young guys at the time. Probably still young now, because if they were young at the time, they're, whatever. And then we got to meet a group of 10 of us got to have a small class with John Woo. So this movie to me is very close to my heart. And John Woo is one of my favorite action movie directors. And we've talked about him on the show before because he hasn't really made a lot of American movies since this movie. And he has a new one coming out. I posted it. I'm so excited. He has a very specific style to his action movies, and it's so much fun. And he is such a good guy. But little fun fact, the screenplay, and hopefully as I'm cleaning my area downstairs, my office, I could find the script. The original screenplay to this movie was so futuristic, like not even close to what we see in the movie. There's a little, the face-off technology is futuristic, but most everything else in the movie is just regular 90s, early 2000s kind of stuff. So it's amazing that they did all this stuff and they took it from one script that was very cold, futuristic, a lot of stuff going on, to this very, I think, more with heart. I think there's a lot of heart in this film.
Well, originally it was going to be mostly set in the prison.
Yeah. In a very futuristic prison, like, it just very
guys walking on the ceiling and
Wonder if they would have used that song, Dancing on the Ceiling.
Probably. I can't imagine in a movie like that you wouldn't use that song. It just fits in perfectly.
They used Somewhere Over the Rainbow, sung by Olivia Newton-John in this movie. So,
it's, Olivia Newton-John and John Travolta are besties. So
pulled some strings there to make that happen. Okay, the concept for this movie, and that's interesting to know that it was originally going to be set in a much more futuristic setting, because then the technology and the face swapping makes sense. But I kind of like that they didn't do that, because that makes it stand out more, right? Because if it was in the future, it'd be like, okay, well, that's probably a normal thing that they do this face swapping all the time. But now, set in 1997 or the late 90s, it's But I do have some issues with the whole face swapping thing, because you got to do more than just swap their faces. Their body types are different. They don't look exactly. I mean, it's just you swap the faces. That's it, and then
You're close enough.
They swapped the voices too, and they
that's
did
true.
the hair, the body hair, and the head hair.
Yeah.
What do you mean John Travolta's
took
body
out
is
the
not
bullets
like Nicolas Cage? Why are you ruining this for me?
I'm not,
This
and
big,
I'm
this
sorry.
big stocky, and I'm not saying he's fat, but you are
No,
right.
he's
Like
broad-shouldered.
John Travolta is more of this kind of big, bronxy, broad guy, and Nicolas Cage, even when he gets muscly, is still a thinner set body. But that's like, if that's your only issue with the movie, I'm fine with it. I know other people have a lot of issues with this movie. This movie is just pure fun.
It's
absolutely
a blast. It's such a guilty pleasure.
And this was the height.
Action. Yeah.
This was the height of Nicolas Cage's career. And it was almost on the opposite side of, I would say, John Travolta, because in the mid 90s, early to mid 90s, John Travolta was coming back. Like in the 70s, 80s, he had some big stuff, and then he kind of disappeared for a little bit, not doing a bunch. And then in the early to mid 90s, he came back with Pulp Fiction, Michael, like all of these Phenomenon.
Oh yeah,
I love that movie. And he was hitting a lot of movies again. And then so he was kind of going like this, and Nicolas Cage was kind of, so they both hit like the same place at the same time. And I gotta say, like, I tried to think last night, like Craig Price, and I tried to think to myself, who.
First of all, don't ever try to think like. I mean, that's a dangerous territory.
If you just a little smidge, a little smidge of, if I were to recast these two actors, and we always say this about movies, like you can't ever imagine someone else because that's who it was, but these two characters, and they are character actors most of the time. I don't know that there would have been anybody more perfect at that time in acting. I did think, okay, you could get somebody, you could do Christopher Walken and someone else, because you do need to have very specific characteristics that another actor can do. And most actors melt into the background, and they lose all of the characteristics about themselves. Whereas Nicolas Cage and John Travolta, even though they are good actors, you usually see a little bit, or sometimes with Nicolas Cage, a lot of their regular personality in the film. They have, and Christopher Walken's the same. He can play a lot of different characters, but you still always hear kind of that Christopher Walken, kind of thing.
I'll be honest.
My
face is off.
I'm thinking right now, what I really want to see is the Face Off remake starring Christopher Walken and Jeff Goldblum. That's now what I want to see.
Or Jeff Bridges. Or
that would be great too.
One of the Jeffs.
Yeah. All right. So
okay. That's okay. I feel good about these picks. Okay.
So
Craig Price. There you go.
This is a great segue, Val. This is something I wanted to talk about, because originally this movie was going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone. And then it got changed, and Michael Douglas became attached to it, and he wanted to go with Harrison Ford, but that ended up not working out. So Michael Douglas became just a producer. But then they discussed Bruce Willis and Alec Baldwin. Now this one wouldn't have worked. Al Pacino and Robert De Niro.
They're almost the same.
Yeah, I have a hard time keeping those two apart anyway. So it'd be
Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal, and Denzel Washington and Wesley Snipes.
I don't think Steven Seagal has the range to do a Jean-Claude Van Damme accent. And I don't think Jean-Claude Van Damme has the range to do a Steven Seagal accent. I just don't see either of them being able to pull that off. What I think really works in this movie is, like, when we talk about a couple of those picks, when you talk about Al Pacino and Robert, like, being so similar, it would be hard to they'd be playing each other, and that's really not a stretch for either one of them. And I think that's why this worked so well, is because you did get to see John Travolta playing a Nicolas Cage character, Nicolas Cage playing a John Travolta character, and the way that they did it. And they are so different in their styles and their acting and the way they approach characters, that it was really kind of fun to see. I don't care I don't care what the Nicolas Cage character kept saying that they weren't having any fun. I think they had a lot of fun making this movie. Both actors
Yeah.
doing this.
What are you Nicolas Cage, when he has fun the whole time. Like sometimes
Yeah.
I think John
Oh, yeah.
Travolta, when he's supposed to be his regular character, is kind of this, whatever. As soon as he gets to be Nicolas Cage,
Yeah,
he's
he's
having a
having
good
fun.
time. But Nicolas Cage being both characters, I think he got the better part of the stick
Yeah,
because,
he did.
and I also
I was
think
gonna ask.
John Travolta did a really good Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, he did.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they actually hung out for like 2 weeks beforehand and talked about what kind of things can we do that we can both to make this more. And I was going to ask who had fun playing Nicolas Cage. Was it Nicolas Cage playing Nicolas Cage? Was it John Travolta playing Nicolas Cage? Was it
I,
John
I,
Travolta Nicolas Cage?
I think it's too hard to say. I think you can just tell that they're just having fun throughout the film, especially like you said, Val, especially when he becomes the Nicolas Cage character. I mean, that scene in the church when he's kind of turning it on. I mean, it's just so good. It really is for an action movie and where these guys are in their career at this time. It's just impressive that they put this together because really it could have been very easy for either of them to kind of phone this in and it still would have been fine.
Oh,
It
yeah.
still would have had the special effects. It still would have had the action and whatever. But the fact that they didn't and they went all out, it was really great.
Yeah, one of my favorite
Well,
scenes is when they have when Nicolas Cage is in the priest outfit and you've got the whole choir there, but he's like setting up, and he's just doing this dancing in the priest outfit and he's smoking.
Yeah.
And at the time, like I'd just gotten out of Catholic school as well. So I was like, that's awesome. But it just his, like, I don't know what they told him because before this movie, like he did Leaving Las Vegas and he did the other Vegas movie.
Snake Eyes.
No, it had Vegas in the title. Yeah, Snake Eyes I don't want to talk about.
I'm sorry.
I mean, I just pictured Halle Berry's boobs, but other than that, that movie was stupid.
Well, then for that piece, I say you're welcome.
Thank you. No, but I mean, he had played some really dark characters, and he played some really just light, feathery, characters. And then for this, I feel like this villain was so fun and so dark. But it wasn't so dark that you didn't want him to not win. You didn't want him to lose, but you didn't want him to win, but you didn't want him to lose,
And it's hard to create a character like that because he's a bad guy. Like he's not a good guy at all. But yeah, he's also likable and charismatic, and it's hard to do that and put you in a spot where you're like, I don't want him to lose. So yeah, I agree. It's a fun movie. It is pure 90s, like just action.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Although
cinema.
I did notice there's a scene in the airplane hangar where one of the FBI agents is running and you can see the wires attached to him, and it's only on there for a second, and then the next shot there's like the exploding bullet, and that's one of the cool things about John Woo in this movie. Every bullet is like a firework, there's like explosions going off everywhere. Yeah. And the guy they shoot something, it's like cardboard boxes, and the guy goes flying backwards like he got hit with a missile, and you can see the wires still. So that kind of made me laugh. But every bullet like sends off a shower of sparks. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, when they're doing the standoff in the church and they start shooting each other, it's just spark after spark after spark. And there was in that scene a lot of birds in the church, and I just feel like most churches try to keep most of the birds out. But maybe I don't know. I haven't been to a lot.
I think
it's John Woo staple.
I think it's a John Woo staple, and I think anybody who loves Prince knows anytime that you're in a church, you need to have doves.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Like
and I think also on that and in that part of the country during that time of year, it might actually be more prevalent than we think. Maybe not doves. But probably, birds.
Seagulls flying in there.
Not seagulls. Not seagulls. God.
I
But no,
that
I love it. Like everybody like, oh, the doves. Oh, shut up. Like seriously.
It
It's
is
so
so
much fun.
it is so over the top, but it is so
that's
just
why it works.
perfect. Like perfectly over the top. Like it's one of those things where it's like, I know you can tell John Woo as he's making this is thinking, I know this is over the top.
Mm-hmm.
But this is what I want, and I'm gonna push it over the top and make it what I want it to be. And it
Well,
works.
that's the
Well, and
reason it
He
you
works
owns
is
it.
because they're committed to it. They turn the dial up to 11
Yeah.
and they just embrace the craziness and go with it, and it absolutely works.
Well, and what people have to understand as well is why why it works so much is that he's bringing a little bit of his culture to us in this
Mhm.
movie. Yes, he's making an American action film, and he specifically was trying to make an American action film. So there's a lot of things in there that you would think as a director, because he's made a lot of films for his own country, not
Right.
a lot of American films. But
Right.
you wouldn't even know. Like sometimes you can tell when somebody's trying to make an American movie. Like they hit all these tropes of things, right? He did bring a lot of what he's used to in his culture into it, and it just works because it's
Mhm.
so much fun. And because the action is very different. If you notice, a lot of the fight scenes are very close.
Mhm.
Whereas at the time before this film in action movies, they're trying to get the whole thing, right? They're trying to get the whole scene. You're getting this is very close range action, and you're getting up and down levels. And then my favorite scene in the movie action wise is when the car comes up and it's mid-air and you've got the explosions, and it's beautiful. It is beautifully shot. Like the coloring is great, and you just want that car to fly forever.
Yeah.
So he knows how to make like a beauty shot in, instead of things being so like, stuff flying everywhere around it. It is just this beauty shot of this car and the explosions behind it. And now they make fun of shots like that in commercials
Yeah.
all the time. You know what I mean?
Well,
true.
and I think it brings up a good point. And I think the nitpicky kind of movie going audience that we have nowadays, where people want to pick stuff apart and be like, that would never work. And we did it a little bit. I'm sorry, I'm guilty of this at the beginning of this episode, talking about the whole face-off surgery
We
thing.
all do it to an extent.
But I was doing it a little bit tongue in cheek, because obviously this is over the top. And the thing is, when you go to see a movie like this, and you shouldn't expect it to be realistic. You shouldn't be like, well, that car scene would never happen. That's not how that would look. Of course it wouldn't. This is an
It's a
artistic
movie.
interpretation of this story, and that we forget that movies are art. When I look at a painting, like and I please understand, I am not comparing this movie to a Vincent van Gogh painting. But when I look at a painting by Vincent van Gogh, I think that's beautiful. But is that what a Starry Night really looks like? But that's his interpretation of a Starry
Right.
Night,
Right.
right? And I think that this is a similar idea. Quality level maybe not up there, because I mean it's just a different.
It
totally
depends on
different thing.
your taste.
But
and
if
where-
John
yeah.
Woo's reading this script and he's saying this is what I think it should look like, and this is my interpretation of it, I think that that's great. And yeah, no, it's not realistic, but it's not supposed to be. It's art. Art isn't
Well, and
necessarily.
it's set in an
This is-
unrealistic time.
Yeah, exactly.
This is an artsy fartsy action film.
It really is. There are shots and scenes in this that are very artsy fartsy, and
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
I
And
love
there's no reason
though,
why it can't be that.
I love how every single time basically somebody shoots a gun, they're jumping sideways. Like
Yeah.
there's so many shots of people jumping sideways and shooting guns, and like more times than not, they hit the mark. I'm like, that's some marksmanship. That's some talent.
Yeah. I thought that actually helped. I don't know. I've never, the one time I've gone target shooting, that's what I
Well, you
did. I
get
would
the
just jump
momentum.
sideways every time.
Yeah, you
And they
get the
kept telling me to
momentum
stop.
to help the bullet go a little bit faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the exact different from Wanted.
But it is, but it is so much more dramatic if they're
Oh, it
jumping
totally
sideways
is.
as they're shooting,
Oh,
as
and
opposed to just standing there shooting. Is it
My-
more accurate? Obviously not. But again, it's an artistic choice.
Can we talk about Alessandro Nivola? Nivola in this movie.
Listen, this is 1/3 your show, Val. We can talk about whatever you want.
I forgot that he was in this movie because he is just plays this like super like puny character. And as I'm watching, which I also think you should go and watch this movie if you have not, but it's the Soprano movie, The Many Saints of Newark, which he is a main character in that movie and is like the exact opposite. Like I totally forgot these two people were the same people. And then as I'm watching this movie again 2 days ago, I'm like, who is his brother? Because before, when I saw this movie, all the times that I've seen this movie a lot, I just thought I always see that as, Nicolas Cage's brother.
Mhm.
And he does a really great job. His character is kind of this silent, quiet brilliance of, that as soon as his brother's dead, like he is taking over the world and he's going to snap. He's that crazy brother that's so quiet, but he's just waiting for his chance. But Alessandro Nivola is an amazing actor. And I didn't put those two together until I finally watched it again a couple of days ago.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, he and Nicolas Cage, when they're in the prison, and it's Nicolas Cage playing John Travolta playing Nicolas Cage. He's like, "Hey, bro."
Yeah.
I was like, "Hello."
Well, and I think that's a sign of a pretty decent actor when it takes you a minute when you see them in a film to realize who
Yeah.
is that. Because there are some, and we're talking about one this month, that when he's in a movie, immediately that it's
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage. I mean, when I saw even Into the Spider-Verse, the minute Spider-Man Noir opens his mouth,
Yeah.
that's Nicolas Cage, and
Yeah.
you just know.
And he knows that about himself, and that's
Yes.
why he's cast in all of these movies, is because again, I'm going to go back to Christopher Walken, but there's only probably a dozen actors out there working right now that are specifically like this, because
Mhm.
most actors they want to disappear in, but these, he specifically as an actor has cashed in a lot on him being in a movie. I mean, he has played movies where he has totally disappeared. He's tried to be someone different, but I really like the movies where you see a little bit of his crazy.
That's one thing that I've always loved about
Well,
Nicolas
he's
Cage.
making
Is
a
we talk
movie.
about. Oh, go ahead, Tracy.
Oh, I was just gonna say he's getting ready to make a movie where he's going to play a fictionalized character, a characterization of himself.
Yeah. Well, and that's
He's
one thing
playing he's playing a Nicolas Cage who gets in trouble with the mob and needs money to finance his movies. So it'll be Nicolas Cage
don't
playing
know.
himself.
This might actually be a true story. He may have at one point gotten in trouble
It
with
could
the mob.
be.
But that's what I love about Nicolas Cage, and as we talk about some of these movies that we're going to talk about this month, is he has 100% just leaned into being Nicolas Cage.
Mhm.
He's like, this is who I am, and I'm just going to embrace it. And I love that. I mean, everybody should just realize this is who I am, and I'm just going to embrace being Jake and just go for it.
Mhm.
Unless your name isn't Jake, then you should go for whatever your name is. But like I just really, really like that. And as we go through each of these different movies that we're going to talk about, this is our first one. We're also going to talk about National Treasure, Pig, and then I think we should end the month with Con Air.
Yeah, and it's really hard because he has so many great movies that we could have picked. Like The Rock is one of my favorite all-time, Nicolas Cage movies. It's in, my top 5 for sure. He's done a few things that aren't great. Don't ever watch Jiu-Jitsu. Just don't do it. You're going to think that you want to, but I'm telling you right now, don't even read the cast, because the cast is going to make you second guess your guess. But don't do it because you don't want to.
The
Ghost Rider is awful.
The Five Nights at Freddy's movie is not very good either.
Yeah, it's. We could have gone a very different direction with Nick
Yeah.
Cage. We could have picked like 4 movies that just were not great, and Ghost Rider would have made that list.
Well, and here's the thing. He takes like a shotgun approach. He does like so many movies that it's like, that 1 out of 10 is going to stick, but when it does, it's going to be so memorable that you don't care.
Well, and he has so many different types of movies because I love like this. These all came out within the same couple of years of each other, but you've got Gone in 60 Seconds, which I actually really, really like that movie. And a year before that, you had 8mm, which if you've never seen 8mm, please watch it. But just note, it is a very R-rated movie, but there are some great, great moments in that. And Joaquin Phoenix is in that movie. And it has one of my favorite movie quotes of all time that I will never, ever say in front of Jake. In my life, it will never happen because I don't want to get that I'm really disappointed in you, daughter, like father.
I thought you were better than that,
happen.
Val.
Because it is a very inappropriate comment, but it is one of the funniest movie quotes coming from any movie. And then he had City of Angels right before that, and right before that you have Face Off. So in the same, like, you know, let's see, what is it, 1995 to 2000. It is Leaving Las Vegas, The Rock, Con Air, Face Off, City of Angels, Snake Eyes, 8mm, Bring Out the Dead. Don't see that one. Gone in 60 Seconds, The Family Man, which is actually a pretty decent movie. Yeah. And then you have Wind Talkers in 2002, and then Adaptation in 2002. So it's just a lot of you can see the range of what he has to offer. So if you love horror films, you can find a couple of horror films with Nicolas Cage. If you like rom-coms, he's got Honeymoon in Vegas, you know, and Con Air. Con Air's kind of a rom-com action film. And then you've got a whole bunch of really good action films. You've got animated films. I forgot he was in G-Force, you know, and then you have The Croods, and then Into the Spider-Verse. He's got everything. And then if you want to see a lot of really awful B movies, there's like 20 of them.
The ghosts. What's the one in Ghostland where he's got to save the president's daughter and he's got like grenades strapped to his crotch, you know? But the thing is, he's like worked not only in different genres, he's worked with so many different directors. I mean, he's worked with everybody from Michael Bay to Martin Scorsese. It's crazy.
Well, in 2022, let's see, 2021 and 2022, he has wrapped he's wrapped and or started 6 films.
Yeah. The guy doesn't stop.
Yeah. And I know he's got to pay some bills off. And he has said that publicly that, you know, look, I've got to say pretty much yes to everything, which has really helped a lot of filmmakers that couldn't normally get someone like Nicolas Cage, get them. Now he should have said no to some of these movies. Like again, Jiu-Jitsu, I just want my $17 back. I want it back. I didn't finish it. You guys know I usually am like, I commit to it. I finish it. I can't do it. And now I own it. It's sitting there on my DVR and I look at it all the time and I just say, why, Dave? This is the worst thing you've ever had me do. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we need to give this one a grade, Face Off. So Tracy, let's start with you. We'll go to Val and then we'll wrap up.
So this movie is pure 90s cheese and it's a guilty pleasure. This is like when you've had a long day and you come home and you just want a big plate of nachos. And it's like 11:30 at night and you're like, I should not have this, but I want it and I'm going to have it and I'm going to enjoy every second of it. Everything on this movie is so over the top. The gold-plated guns. I
want those guns. Who doesn't want those guns?
And my favorite shot is when he gets out of the car on the tarmac of the airport and
why do you think I love those kind of coats? That right there.
Pillows. Yeah. And
it's not an overcoat, it's a cape. I mean, really at that point, it's just awesome.
But I love it. And Jake, I was thinking of you last night because I was looking on the computer monitor when they're talking about how they make sure that they say they have different blood types.
Yeah.
You know, there's AB and then there's O, which one is the universal donor, Sean Archer, and the other one is the one that can receive any type of blood, and that's Castor Troy. So see, there's deep levels in this movie. But I noticed Castor Troy has a high A1C, and I thought, there you go. He's diabetic. So, you know.
So he must be homicidal because he's diabetic. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, that's exactly. We're trying. This month is actually an intervention. It's not about Nicolas Cage at all. It's about the fact that we think at some point, Jake,
Yeah.
As somebody who's pre-diabetic, I'm very concerned about A1C right now, and so I noticed that last night, and I was like,
This
"Well,
is
okay."
this is good that we're tying this in. It is Diabetes Awareness Month in November,
See?
so there you
Again,
go.
it works on so many levels, this
This
movie.
movie does. It's like an onion, just levels and layers.
But it's just so much fun. It's such a guilty pleasure. It makes me I laugh out loud while watching this movie, but I feel like I'm in on the joke. I'm not laughing at this movie, I'm laughing with this movie. I'm gonna give it an A as far as Nick Cage goes. It's a great John Woo film, it's a great action film, it's a great comedy. It's just over the top wonderfulness. I'm going solid A on this one.
Wow. All
I
right,
wasn't
Val.
going to because I feel like I may like get a little bit shamed if I give it an A, but I think
You know
I'm going to
what?
pull out an A as well because do you know, well, it has all the things that I love about an action film
Mhm.
and when I watch other action films, so take the movie like the story out of it, right? And and just watch the action and the cinematography of this film. And after I had watched this at 17 years old and really known more about this film. Every other film, action film after it for at least 5 to 7 years, I compared, to this. Again, take the story out and just do the cinematography and the action. I also can't not mention the fact that Joan Allen and Gina Gershwin,
Yeah.
or Gina Gershon is
Mhm.
their characters in these films were very much leading us into the year 2000s on how they got to command these characters. Because yes, Gina Gershon, they could have gone totally 90s girlfriend
Mhm.
without very much clothes that Gina had usually done.
Right.
And they gave her more substance than that in this film. And they didn't have to. Do you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
they
Mhm.
really and
She could have just been the damsel and
she could have
the
been
mob wife
Gina
girlfriend.
plays the sex pot. Let's just
Right.
like that's
Right.
what she played. But they gave her more than that in this film. And I loved that at that age, because I was 17 at the time, that I saw two women, and because Joan Allen is a very quiet,
Great.
she's a very quiet but commanding character in this movie. And I
Mhm.
saw these two women at a very specific point in my life and going into filmmaking and loving it and heading, being at film school, where there was maybe, I don't know, 10 females in all of my classes, right? And
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
17 braces from Utah, like out there, watching this film and seeing this. And I just thought I was so impressed by what they did with the females in this movie. Not even that, like the police woman
Mhm.
that was in the detective that was in this film as well. So I thought that was really great. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give it an A like Tracy did. I'm not going to be shamed by my Nicolas Cage. But
Dude.
I usually say, okay, it has to be entertaining to
Yep.
get an A. It
Yep.
has to have certain qualities that I would compare to other films. And then will I watch this movie again? I have seen this movie way more
So
times than
many
I would
times.
ever admit.
Yep.
When I go, to like a meeting with my um,
Your
film
film
critic
critic.
association, like in 3 weeks, we have to go vote. I don't know that I would admit that to them because they'd just be like, whatever, Val.
Get out. Get out.
But I have seen this movie so many times. So many.
Now I feel like the pressure is on me. Are we
No,
going
Are
to
we
no,
make
no,
this
going
a
with
no,
the
no,
triple
no.
A
AAA?
rated
Are
film?
we going with the
No, you
AAA?
don't have to.
No.
I was gonna be an A minus B plus, but I'm just gonna go with the
And I
regular
think
A.
I think for me it's still a B plus, and I hate to bring it down, but I do think that it's good. B plus is not a bad grade. I
No.
think it's
No.
fun. I think Tracy, when you say it's like 90s cheese, when I think of that, I'm thinking like the easy cheese that you would like spray out
Cheese
of
Oh,
a
whiz.
totally.
bottle onto
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
your
Yep.
cracker, and that's
Yep.
the kind of cheese that this is. It says
It's
it's
the
made with real
7-Eleven.
cheese, but
It's
I
the
mean, come on.
7-Eleven nacho cheese.
Yeah, but it embraces that and it totally works. And they say we're gonna have fun with this, and they do. For me, I just don't know that it's an A level as far as I don't know that it's one that I would watch over and over again. But it is definitely one that if you want to get a feel for what movies in the 90s were like and really good action movies of the 90s, this is a great one to watch. I mean, it's up there. I would put it up there in the same category as like Independence Day, where if you want a good feel for what an action movie in the 90s was, Independence Day is kind of what I go to,
Mhm. Mhm.
and this goes right up there with that. Nicolas Cage is so entertaining. And John Travolta is at the peak of his career, his second career in this one. So
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage eyes.
yeah, yeah. But for me, it's a B+, which is it's still a solid grade. If you haven't seen it, oh my gosh,
He does that face like
He
7
does.
times.
He does.
Yeah,
Because it's John Travolta's Sean Archer realizing he's got to play Castor Troy, so he's got to crank up the crazy.
yeah. So, but go see this if you haven't. And next week we're going to be back with another Nicolas Cage movie. I think we're going to do National Treasure next week, and then week of Thanksgiving we'll do Pig. I just feel like that's fitting somehow. I don't know.
You haven't seen the movie yet, have you?
Not yet. So
yeah, I mean, you're going to regret saying that after you see the movie, but Pig is a really good movie, so I look forward to that. I do also want to say that I accidentally made our show the sponsor of my wedding.
Yeah,
because
we saw that.
when I set this up, our little logo up there, it's so tiny.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about so many other things, and then after I watched it, I was like, well, I mean,
it makes sense.
Whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I changed everything else.
I saw that. I was like, well, I'm not going to ask her about it on her wedding day. I'm just going to go
Right.
with like
I'm
at this
open to
point,
live
she's
stream.
got
So I'm sorry if you
Why
didn't
not?
want to
Let's
be the
just throw it up.
sponsor to my weird wedding. I'm sorry, but we were sponsors of my weird
Why
wedding.
would we not want to be the sponsor to that wedding? We want to sponsor Dave's suit.
Yeah.
You want to sponsor Dave's suit? Okay, you can be the official sponsors of
We'll be
Dave's
the
suit.
There was so
Support
much
that.
enjoying that. So if you guys haven't seen Val's wedding, go back to our YouTube channel. It's there. It was a live
there.
stream on our channel.
Oh, it's on my YouTube channel. So
Yeah.
is it on ours too? Because I only put it to mine.
It should be.
Oh, I don't know.
We can put it on both.
I'm not sure where, but yeah,
Yeah.
you can check it out on Val's YouTube channel. It was great. It was an experience. It was fun.
And real quick before we go, I want to thank Val and Jake for letting Movies That Make Us put together a fantastic night last week, a week ago or so. Over at the Midway, we raised money for the American Cancer Society. We raised over $600.
That's awesome.
We had trivia, we had raffle prizes, we had karaoke. We just had a lot of fun, and so that was really special to me. I'm fully funded now for the Joking commitment, so thank you. You guys put me over the top. Thanks for the fans of the show that came out, and it was a great time.
Fun. And they liked us so much that they might have us host the Movies That Make Us movie trivia starting January 1st. So we'll see what happens, but you might be able to do it. Bye, babe. Love you.
All
Bye,
right.
babe.
Lots of fun stuff. Love you, Dave.
They both love you, Dave.
It didn't sound convincing, Jake. Did you feel the love there?
He was halfway out the door.
Yeah, he was on his way somewhere.
He's going to work.
Baby steps. We'll get him there. It's fine.
Okay.
No
All right.
worries.
All right.
No, he loves
Hey,
you
no,
guys, and that was the one thing I missed you guys being there, but after I saw the logo, I was like, okay, well, it was kind of like they
We're
were
there in
here.
spirit.
They were
Yeah.
here.
I think we both watched it. I know I
We
watched
did.
it. Yeah.
Yep.
The flower humans were great.
Mhm.
And
I didn't get to see any of that until after.
Yeah, because you weren't there at the time. That's a good
but
point.
I
Sammy
really
and Dave's handshake that they did.
yes, that was also classic. The whole handshake that they had worked out. But his suit just did not disappoint in any
Nope.
way.
Yeah.
It was
Nope.
really
Great.
great. So anyway, thank you everybody for listening. Be back next week for more Nick Cage goodness. I mean, there's just so much, and we're just sharing it all in this time of abundance and Thanksgiving. Thank you everybody. Have a great week, and we won't see you at the movies.
I could eat a peach for hours.
This has been a Stolen Droids Media production.